Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the L Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Yes, we are a bunch of wild and crazy Browns fans. Welcome aboard. This is the Fanatical Elfz Show. It's a Thursday night, like Steve says. What else are you going to be entertained by but us, the Fanatical Elfz here? We got Steve, we got Sam, we got Elliot in-house. It's been quite a week to sort of recover. And
I still haven't recovered. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm still an addict. I'm not recovering.
It's been one of those weeks, and I think we've done a post-game show, and I know, Steve, you brought a few of your post-game shows in the Dog Pound South, some great shows he's brought this week, some really good content. Sam's got his new show out, too. We've got that we'll be posting any second right now, so catch that. Browns Breakdowns on Apple or Spotify. Elliot has his shows, The Oracle Speaks, that will be popping to you on Apple and Spotify momentarily. And then we had What the Elf Was That? Did you not, Sam, you got together with our buddy Joel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a hour-long show where we just kind of talked about scouting, and I'll give everyone a little sneak peek. Next week we might just sit there and watch I don't know if it'll be live, but we might just sit there and watch a half a game, just discuss football for the whole time.
I love it. So
you might learn something.
We're, one of the things that we're planning on again, and I know haven't talked to the guys too much about this, but we started this journey with the Fanatical Elfz back late March, early April last year, and it led us up into the NFL draft. And this year we're going to be doing some shows, and last year we actually recorded our shows live during when the Browns were picking. I think they have 7 or 8 picks. I don't know if we'll be on for that length of time, but we're going to bring you some shows.
It was a long Saturday too.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. And, Sam here and Elliot, Steve, and even Joel, Rod Bloom's doing his Browns Blitz. He's going to be bringing that to you tomorrow morning. He's got a special guest as usual. So looking forward to the off season here, but it's an off season. I think many of us would have wanted to wait a little bit longer. We were all excited thinking that they were going to go down to Houston. And after, they beat Houston the first time, obviously it's not a playoff game, and they were minus CJ Stroud that first time around. Everybody thought, well, it would be scary, but the Browns defense and Joe Flacco mania would be there and we would move on. Well, that didn't happen. And the Browns packed their bags and are no longer in the game. Joe Flacco threw 2 pick sixes. The defense decided really not to show up and disappeared. And there were some really bad moments, just, where players and laps of just good fundamental football that we can all complain about. I have a couple players in particular that I'm annoyed with, but want your take, I guess, just generally from everybody here first. How you're doing this week. I know it's Thursday. I think, Sam, let's start with you. You said you haven't recovered yet.
No, I have recovered. It just sucks not having to have any Browns to look forward. You get used to it after 18 weeks of it, or 17 weeks, I guess. But it's nice. It's cold out here in Texas. It's a weird weather. It's going to drop 25 degrees tomorrow. It's 60 degrees the high here, and then 35 tomorrow.
Okay. So you don't have any snow on the ground?
No more snow. The snow melted whenever it came down. It was out for like 2 hours and it melted. It was like an eighth of an inch, probably less. But yeah, I think the Browns just need to move on. I think they already have done pretty good on that, and look forward and just begin trying to figure out what the next steps are, especially not for the players. The players just stop playing football, but the head coach, the GM, all those guys really are getting into their big part of the season.
Right. Yeah, I like it. Good take, Sam. Steve, how much snow do you have on the ground?
Well, originally we got over 7 inches. It's interesting that Sam's low, our high today was 33. It's gonna.
Oh no, our
it's
high
gonna-
tomorrow is 35.
Oh, your high tomorrow is 35. I think our high
Yeah,
tomorrow.
our low is 19.
26, and then it's going to drop to 6. So back to the single digits. We got down to 1 degree the other morning. Snow's still on the ground. We got a little freezing rain, some sleet. We're going to have some more snow tomorrow. Woo!
And we like to
Luckily,
bring you
I
the
work
weather
for-
reports here on the Fanatical Elves. We're all weather geeks.
Hey, you know, everybody's going through it. School's been out the entire week.
Well, we're praying for
Who
school
knows?
day, Steve. We're doing this the school
I know
school
you,
day dance.
John. And next week it'll probably get up to the upper 50s, 60. So as for the game, I had the entire fourth quarter to stew about it, so that helped me decompress a lot quicker. Because I'm not going to turn the TV off. Unlike watching the Ohio State versus Missouri, once Missouri scored that second touchdown, I was like, it's over.
It's over.
But I'm not going to see the Browns on the field again until August. So I'll sit and watch it. I sat and watched it and stewed. And I'm kind of, next morning I got up and said, well, on to 2024.
Well, we have to. I mean, it's as a Browns fan, I wrote an article or two this week for Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders and one for Fans First, just about, well, there's always next year. And that's really the motto, our calling card, our battle cry as a Browns fan. There's always next year.
I don't say that. I say it's time to reload.
Well, I like that too. I think my negative look on it, and I know I was talked to a few other Browns fans that I know pretty well. They said, "Well, that was a negative take, Su-Chan." I said, "Well, yeah, I've been watching these games for a long time, like all of us here, except for Sam, not quite as long. And I think we're going up to Super Bowl 58. I still have hope that the Browns one day will get to that illustrious big game. And thought this year, despite all the injuries and everything, I mean, Flacco Mania got us all excited for the last month of the season. And so it's just a real downer, but there were reasons why the Browns didn't have to be where they were. But it's disappointing for a lot of different reasons, but we'll talk about that if we need to later. Elliot, your take on just the end of the season. I know you've done a couple Oracle shows that are going to be popping here shortly, but how are you doing this week?
Oh, absolutely fine. Football is not about giving up, so that thought does not cross my mind. I obviously wanted the season to end differently, but I felt that Texas did have a very good chance to win this game, and I think they were a lot better than I thought that they were, truthfully. But I'm just so impressed with C.J. Stroud, just unbelievably impressed with that young man. I think it's going to be a really cool game against Baltimore. I will be rooting for CJ and the Texans to beat Baltimore.
Yeah,
don't care.
Oh yeah.
I still want to beat Baltimore. I don't like Baltimore one little tiny bit. Go CJ, go Texans.
Damn ratbirds.
There you go. Thank you. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I do think 2024 is going to be a difficult season. I really want to get my brain around how the salary cap thing is going to work out. It's a lot tougher problem than people appreciate based on all of the long-term contracts that exist. And I haven't reached a final opinion about whether this is possible or not. Got to get, Deshaun Watson's contract restructured, I think. But there will be a 2024 season one way or the other.
Yes, that's true. We're going to play the games.
And we're going to watch. It doesn't matter to me. Football is the greatest game that there is. I'm going to watch it all my life. As long as there's breath in these lungs, I'm going to watch football. That's the way it is.
Excellent. Well, let me just bring up a couple things. Before we get into the Browns coaching news, Bill Belichick, I'm hearing that he's going to be the next Atlanta Falcons coach.
He might be.
All hearing?
Wait till the ink's dry.
Yeah, He interviewed the Atlanta Falcons for the second time
Okay.
Yeah.
today. They don't interview him; he interviews them.
Sure.
And Mike Vrabel met with the Chargers today.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, and one guy
Brian Callahan seems to be the flavor of the month, the OC for the Bengals.
Okay.
So
I
who
heard
knows?
about him in Tennessee. I heard there was
he interviewed.
rumor.
Is he related to Art Callahan?
He's his son.
His boy.
Okay.
And that's a big worry with Browns fans that if Brian gets a head coaching job, Bill will leave and go help his son.
Right.
So I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah.
But he seems to be very happy in Cleveland. Bill Callahan does.
Yes.
So I don't know if he wants to. If it's Tennessee and he sees that offensive line, he may go, I'll pass.
No, I mean,
I'll see you on the holidays.
They've been in that situation with Cleveland and Cincinnati for the longest time, where Bill had the opportunity to go down and help his son.
Oh, when he was okay.
But I don't think that the family wants to do that, really.
I don't think so either.
Then they'll be fighting with each other at Thanksgiving. No,
Thanksgiving.
Well,
at the Thanksgiving table, they'll be arguing about, Dad, you should never have trained the guy to do this. You should have been going left instead of right.
They'll be throwing dinner rolls and things like flying.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, a fork goes past somebody's head, and then all hell breaks loose.
Let's switch gears. Continue talking about coaching, because the Browns this week, and according to like Steve said, Steve Gill on his show earlier said a little bit of a surprise, and I think the Browns decided
a little bit
get rid of after the debacle that it was in the playoff game. They parted ways with Van Pelt, with Stump Mitchell, and then the tight end coach, name slipping
TC
me.
McCarthy.
TC and McCartney. So they part ways with these guys after it seemed like the offense was okay. And this, obviously, we've lost Nick Chubb. Our wide receiver core was down a little bit. Elijah Moore was, battling this or that. But they were still putting up points this season. And Stefanski, steady Eddie goes this way. I'm surprised. I want your takes on this, because I know we talked about this before we came on air, and Elliot, you had some interesting thoughts, and I want to get those thoughts out there, because I do think it is something to talk about. Deshaun Watson, the billion-dollar man, who half of the Browns population doesn't care for. The other population cares for him immensely. He is pretty much, our quarterback for the foreseeable future. So I'd like your takes on what you think about these coaching changes, your reaction to it, and then how it kind of ties back to Deshaun and what your thoughts are. That Elliot, let's start with you.
Well, I think that given the fact that the Browns had about 6 quarterbacks that they were using at one time or another, if we're going to count Joshua Dobbs, who was the third-string quarterback and was traded, it was an absolutely brilliant job coping with all of the injuries.
Point.
I think it was the number one coaching job in the NFL by far.
Yeah.
And so what do you do when you're confronted with brilliant success? Well, if you're the Cleveland Browns, you've got to fire the people who were responsible.
Right.
And so that's why you fire the offensive coordinator and you fire the guy who was able to replace Nick Chubb, despite the fact that he was the greatest runner in the NFL, or at least one of the very top runners. And then the Browns also lost their all-pro right tackle, the number one guy for leading the running game. And they also lost the left tackle, who was the starter. And I think he was probably even injured before he was gone for the season. And I think, he wasn't playing well. A lot of people thought, he's just lazy. But no, I think he was actually hurt before he was out for the year on IR. And then they also lost the backup the backup to the backup, and there were injuries all throughout the offensive line. It was incredible that they're able to field a team at all, and yet their backup got better as the season went on. I'm talking about Jerome Ford, and they got Kareem Hunt to come out of limbo, and he was a very serviceable running back.
Right.
They got Pierre Strong to show some flashes, though he did not stay healthy throughout the season. I thought it was a great job. So, yeah, fire the people who are responsible. The real controversy in my mind is, okay, whose idea was it? Is this something that they're doing to placate the quarterback, Deshaun Watson? It might be a good idea because they need to have an offensive philosophy that fits the quarterback. But was it really the head coach's desire, or was it motivated through some Browns-like channel where it goes through the owner and then down to the head coach? That I'm not sure about. I'd like to hear from some of the other Fanatical Elves about their opinion on this.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that too. Steve, let's go to you.
Okay, let's start with the after the first Pittsburgh game, where T.J. Watt said we knew what was coming. Everybody just kind of
Gotta love T.J. Watt. Gotta love T.J. man. Not
So a lot of people, including myself, I kind of went, he doesn't know what he's talking about. There has been disagreements between Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt, and don't forget he tried to leave once. He was going to be the offensive coordinator of the University of Pittsburgh, and he changed his mind. A couple of years ago.
Was that after? Was it
the beginning of last season? It was either the beginning of last season or the season before. Okay. I think it was the season.
That's
before.
A good side note. I like Steve.
So
bringing those details.
There has been disagreements between Van Pelt and Stefanski. Van Pelt does all the game planning during the week.
Yeah.
And he had a little extra eyes on game day. The Stump Mitchell thing, after Chubb got hurt week 2, they still had DeJuan Jones and Wills at tackle. The running game still was struggling a little bit, but I would have kept him. But he was a holdover from the last coaching staff. So maybe Kevin Stefanski, who made all these decisions, it's his decisions to make because it's his coaching staff, decided to get rid of Stump. As for T.C. McCartney, his contract was up. So maybe Stefanski has somebody else in mind to take over for tight ends. They have, for some reason, interviewed.
I just got to part ways here. Hey,
what was
Sam,
his name? His name was Ryan Crew.
Is there a tornado going on over there in Texas?
Defensive line coach.
What?
So, Steve, hold on one second. I'm getting some. I don't know what's your audio. We're live here. I just double checking.
Here, I'll just be silent. Tell me if you hear anything, okay?
Okay. Sorry, Steve.
I heard some jiggling somewhere.
Yeah, I think it might have been Sam's. Okay.
For some reason, they hired Ryan Crew of the Titans for their defensive line coach. I had not heard that Ben Bloom had been fired. He's a holdover from Joe Wood's staff. He was promoted to defensive line coach, so that kind of caught me a little bit by surprise. Let's see now. Deuce Staley, they interviewed for running back coach. Andy Dickerson for offensive coordinator. I find that interesting.
Where's he from? Seattle?
He's been around the league for a while. When he was with Seattle, right now he is with. I think he was with Seattle in 2001. He was the run game coordinator for Seattle, and they had one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. I think they averaged 5.02 yards per attempt that year with no-name running backs. So that would probably tell me that Stefanski is still going to call plays and that they think having an offensive coordinator who's more in tune to the run game, that Well, that's why they hired him, John, to call
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe
Dickerson was on staff
if
with
they
Freddie
hired-
Kitchens. He was on the Brown
if they-
staff
what-
on 2019 with Freddie Kitchens.
who,
Okay.
Dickerson?
Yes.
I thought he was with Mangini a long time ago.
He was also back twice. He was with the Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if they
Yeah.
hire a passing game coordinator.
Sure.
Then maybe a guy who's heavy
So,
into passing
in-
as OC, then maybe Stefanski will give up play calling and just be a head coach like he did with defense and special teams. He let
But
those
you don't-
guys do their thing.
You don't think that? I mean, you believe that Stefanski's going into this whole thing by, he wants to maintain what he's doing.
Depends on who they hire.
Yeah,
If
but
they hire a guy like
but does he have the final say?
Yes, he has the final say.
You're sure?
But they don't talk about it. I mean, come on, it's a team thing. But he hires and fires his own coaches.
Okay.
I don't care what anybody says. That's the way it is.
Okay.
Now, if he hires Darryl Bevel, who was with him with Minnesota, then that tells me he's going to probably still call his plays.
Okay.
If he goes up and snatches Tim Kelly, who's the offensive coordinator here in Nashville,
Uh-huh.
who was Deshaun's quarterback coach in 2019 and 2020,
Oh.
then that tells me he's going to give up some play calling. A lot of people have said Bill O'Brien. I can't see that.
No, I
He's
saw
with
Bill
the
O'Brien
Patriots.
linked to Ohio State.
Yeah, I saw
No.
that too. But Bill O'Brien and
That would
the
people
reason
would
Deshaun
die here in
Watson
Columbus.
wanted a trade was because Bill O'Brien traded Hopkins, the wide receiver. So I can't see that at all.
Well,
But you're going to get a lot of names. I mean, you're
That's-
going to get a lot of names who breathe the same air as McVay
yeah,
or Shanahan.
yeah.
So, and there's
All right, let me-
also Gary Kubiak's kid, Clint Kubiak. Out there.
Okay,
So, you don't know.
Sam,
I don't know.
Let's move over to you for a few minutes here about what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
There's everything going on with the Browns coaches and what you're looking at, what you're hearing, and how you think this is going to play out.
Yeah, I think first did the offensive coordinator, he got fired, right?
Yep. Alex
Okay,
Van
I was just
Pelt.
making sure because I keep getting their names mixed up.
Yeah, Alex
Um,
Van Pelt.
I think it was a tiny bit unfair to Alex just because the season offensively was kind of weird with so many injuries and stuff. I think changes probably did need to be made. I mean, look at Joe Woods and him getting fired, and then Jim Schwartz coming in and the defense shooting up.
Yeah.
If that
Except
can
they
happen with
blew
the
it in
offense.
big moments like last week's playoff game. But let's not talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? The defensive coordinator for Dallas. I can't think of his name.
Are
The
they
Cowboys.
keeping him in Dallas, by the way,
I don't
McCartney
know.
or whatever?
McCarthy, yeah.
Yes.
They're keeping him.
Yes.
Yeah, they're keeping
Yeah.
McCarthy, but who's the Cowboys defensive coordinator? I can't think of his name for some reason.
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn, yes, they might keep him if he doesn't get a head coach job.
He's
A
been
head
interviewed
coaching
by a
job.
couple teams already.
Yeah, but Dan Quinn was one of the best defensive coordinators
No, it's
until
Brian Schottenheimer.
Oh, Brian
Quinn is the-
Schottenheimer. That's right.
Quinn is the DC. Yeah, Brian
Oh, okay.
Schottenheimer was mentioned. I forgot who was interested in him.
But I think it'll all work out. I think Kevin and Joe Barry both know what they're doing when it comes to firing these people, and I think it could technically, yes, it could be a mistake and offense could go down, but I think with so much going on, I do think that the Browns needed to make some changes, even if it only sends us up 5 places in offensive production. It still was an improvement.
Okay.
And I think it's definitely a decent option. And I think the Browns probably made a good choice moving away.
Well, also Stefanski going to be here longer. He'll get a new contract. When that happens, when will that happen? When do you think that will happen, everybody?
Well,
Eventually, I mean, he was coach of the
Andrew
year.
Berry
Probably.
was supposed to talk to the media yesterday or today, and then the coaching thing happened. So he's
Okay.
pushed that back till next week. I think it'll be taken care of here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think like the Schwartz hire, I think the offensive hires will come quickly. They
Right.
didn't waste any time with Jim Schwartz, so I don't see him wasting any time with this.
All right, so we know that Stefanski is going to sign here. We've talked a little bit about some of the other players. By the way, Austin Watkins, who we all loved in preseason, the preseason love affair with our wide receiver, was in the news because he signed with Philly earlier today or yesterday. So
futures contract.
So long to the number 8 wide receiver that had about 200 and 300 yards in the preseason. And we were all thinking that he might make the team, but he did not. Okay. So
he doesn't play special teams.
Let's take a
limits you on a 53-man roster.
Let's take a quick break here on the Fanatical Elfz. We're going to look at a few other players here that we might potentially sign, including Nick Chubb. And I also want to get your takes on this upcoming week's playoffs, even though the Browns aren't in the playoffs and maybe you don't care. But I'd like to get your takes. And we overheard a little bit about Baltimore and the Ratbirds playing Houston and what it might take for Houston to win that game. We'll be right back in the Fanatical Elfz. And we are back here on the Fanatical Elfz. Hope you enjoyed that. And
loved them.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We're so thankful for everybody that tunes in and listens to us. And I know the season has come to an end, but we will continue to be bringing you weekly shows. All these shows we talk about: the Oracle Speaks, the Dog Pound South, Browns Breakdowns, the Browns Blitz, the Johnny Cleveland podcast. That's mine. We'll be bringing all that to you every week as we prepare. I love the fact that Sam and the left guard are starting to do some scouting. And, the left guard and Sam have really taken a lot of time and effort to really delve into that. The Oracle Speaks, Elliot here just does all these things that he researches and goes in depth and studies these teams like really amazingly. Steve does all this research and with the monies and the contracts and the players that are available and practices and all this stuff. He does amazing stuff. I can't do it. I'm just the irrational guy who just sort of says whatever the hell's on my mind and half the time doesn't make sense. So join us here every week. Okay. Anything else out there that you guys want to talk about this week? Because, I'm thinking Stump Mitchell gone, running back coach. Nick Chubb waiting the wings. He's Batman. He'll be returning. We all think so. I wanted your take on this with Nick Chubb because I totally disagree with. I know Steve. You really like Jack Duffin and some of these guys and them speculating that the Browns or that Nick Chubb would potentially not come back next season because
he might start the season on the PUP list.
That's fine, but it was even suggested. I thought it was suggested in the article that you had suggested from Jack Duffin that they may even try to part ways, that the Browns would consider parting ways with him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If that happened, Cleveland would fall apart. And
he is definitely a candidate for restructure, but yes. Right now I hear he's hitting all his benchmarks on his rehab. So, but how things go. A rehab can change at a moment's notice.
Yes.
So, and this team doesn't, if they make a roster mistake, they correct it the next season. So I could see where they might have to look at, like Elliot has been saying constantly, a veteran backup who can step in if Chubb isn't on the, on the PUP
Kareem
list
Hunt's not coming back.
starts.
He's not going to do this again. Do you think
No,
so?
he's not coming back.
He's not coming back.
He's not. And, there's some guys out there they could get cheap. I mean, Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard in Dallas is a free agent. A guy I love very much, which I wish they traded for this past year, Cordell Patterson. He was not used in Atlanta at all. He can catch the ball.
Where was he used this year? Where was he this year?
He was in Atlanta, and he was hardly used.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
because they
Arthur
drafted the
Smith.
running back.
He was such a good
Yeah, but
the year before
Yeah,
last.
they
he was-
drafted the running back out of Texas, but it still didn't help Arthur Smith. He got canned.
Mhm.
So
Now, if Bill goes there, do you think he'd use Cordell?
that's a
No.
possibility. I
He
doubt
likes
it,
running
but
backs.
not his type. But
okay.
yeah, the season hinges at the running back position on what they're going to do with Chubb.
Yeah.
I think they're going to make a deal with him and keep him for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Also, the season hinges on what to do with Amari Cooper. I mean, they save some money if they cut him, more than the dead money. I think 3 times the dead money.
Yeah.
So, do you rework a contract for a 29-year-old, soon to be 30 wide receiver? I mean, you got guys out there that you could possibly pick up. One of my all-time favorites, Tyler Boyd, down in Cincinnati. He's a free
what about
agent.
T. Higgins?
To always get T. Higgins. I don't know. He might be too expensive, but he was hurt. He might come cheap. Nelson Aguilar from the Ravens, he'll be a free agent. A guy not like I wish he could stay healthy. Michael Thomas with the Saints, but these are the type of decisions going into the start of the new year, which is on March 13th at 4:00 Eastern. These are the type of decisions.
What happens March 13th?
And it could affect March 13th. Tampering starts the 11th through the 13th, and then at 4:00 Eastern on the 13th, the new season starts.
Is that when free agency starts?
That's when, the legal tampering period starts.
That's when you're allowed to call
the
players.
11th.
Okay.
The illegal tampering period starts at the combine, which is, I believe,
whenever you want,
February 1st to March. Yeah, the combine starts February 27th through March 4th. That's the illegal tampering period. So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yes.
A hypothetical, say, if you have a wide receiver as a client, how much you think that you would think he could be worth?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. All good points. We had a lot to talk about here in the next couple months. Elliot,
God, yes.
Anything on your mind right now that you're like,
Well,
I know
Steve inspired a really good question. Because we traded for Amari Cooper for a 3rd round draft pick. And I just wonder, is he worth more or less since 2 years ago? Has he gained value? Could we get a 3rd round draft pick by trading him again, or is he now?
I think he's coming off his best season statistically with yardage, right?
Yeah, I mean, was he kind of like coming off of a down year with Dallas? Why did we get him for a 3rd round pick?
Because Dallas is stupid.
We signed him to a bigger deal, I think, now. So I'm not really
sure. $20 million a year.
Speaking of dumb teams, I'm sorry, I gotta talk about the Cowboys. What a complete, we talk about the Browns struggles. Here's a team, man. And Sam, you live down there, but man, the Cowboys they just choke. They are choke artists, big time. Micah Parsons, these guys, they don't show up. I mean, we're talking about Myles Garrett. Man, the Cowboys are just ugly. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the Cowboys in this show, but man, they're a loser organization. Okay.
One of my, if I can comment quickly, I listened to the local radio, and one of the hosts, they released their Seize the Opportunity division title shirts. The Cowboys did.
Yes.
And the radio host likes joking that the shirts actually say "We seize up."
Oh,
they can't win anything.
I like that. We seize up.
Elliot, back to you. I know I interrupted you.
No, I'm just curious about whether I think it would make sense for the Browns to trade Cooper if they can. But I think that Cooper has actually gotten better, at least in my estimation.
Yes.
He played at an all-pro level this past season, and I just wonder if he has trade value, and if so, the Browns do need to do some salary cap adjustments in this offseason. If they can get value for him, they need to get younger and they need to get cheaper at certain positions, even if it's it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I know the idea of keeping.
You have to decrease the talent level somewhere,
but I agree.
Want to, but you have to.
Yeah. Okay, Sam. Anything else here? I do have one other final topic I'd like to bring up to everybody, but Sam, thoughts?
Yeah. The Browns just need to. I think Nick Chubb's situation is kind of interesting because you consider if his knee is now permanently weaker because that's the second time he's injured that spot. Okay. And I think that's a little bit of a concern is that maybe his running speed, maybe his running strength will be a little lower because of that injury. And maybe you should look somewhere else. But I think Nick Chubb is just, I think they're going to keep Nick Chubb. I mean, if he didn't get hurt, he would have performed great. He was performing well in those few games. I think they'll keep him, but I think there are other outlets to find running backs. I mean, there's free agency still. Is Eckler a free agent? Because
Steve, you mentioned
he is because he's a pretty good running back. Tony Pollard is a free agent.
I don't have any money for free agents. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure you do. They're gonna free up like they can knock $30 million just by renegotiating Watson, and they could go all the way up.
Then they'll be up to zero. That's what they need to do to get up to zero.
No, they're only $13 million over the cap.
No. But they need to sign people to the. They only have 46 people on contract. They need to have a draft. They need to have enough money for replacement players, and they need to have a practice squad. You add all that up, they need to have 30 million just to get up to zero. That's the number.
Okay, Sam.
Well, only the top 53 contracts count against the cap.
Yeah, well, they need to have 53 people actually signed to a contract.
And if they restructure people, which they're very good at, they will be able to have the money.
Well, we'll cross that. That's a good hot topic. Sam, finish your thought before I'm going to throw another hot topic at everybody here.
I think the Browns, Amari Cooper is especially an interesting one. I think they should re-sign him personally. I mean, if you look at how old is DeAndre Hopkins?
Hopkins.
You think maybe you look at someone who's an older, I don't know, but Amari Cooper's still performing.
Odell Beckham.
Yeah, he did a
moron.
Season.
Okay.
But I think Amari Cooper should be a re-sign, even if it's for 2 years. I think they'll re-sign Amari. I think they'll re-sign Nick Chubb.
You're wearing a shirt today.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Amari Cooper jersey.
Nice.
It would be pretty disappointing if he left, and I'm like, well, I guess I just have an Amari Cooper jersey just laying around. I don't know. I think the Browns will re-sign them both.
Amari Cooper is signed for next year, but he's signed at
I thought he was
$20 million.
leaving.
No, he's not.
No, they're going to have to either cut him or renegotiate him. That's one of the other things.
There is going to be net talent that is going to leave. There are going to be more players leave than there are players brought in.
Okay.
That's my point.
Final comment, and I want your take on this. And I know some of you probably don't care, but it was a hot topic for 24 hours in Cleveland. If you watch the local news here I'm in Columbus, but I did catch Ken Carman. I think he works for he was trying to be funny on air. I don't know if anybody caught this, but he was talking about, all the things that were happening in Cleveland sports, the Indians and the Cavs, and kept not mentioning the Browns. This is Monday after, but there was a picture in the background. I don't know if you saw this, Elliot, but it was of Baker Mayfield, the winning QB down in Tampa Bay, the former Browns quarterback. And it is a hugely hot topic. And though he doesn't play for our team anymore, I know that, Steve. I just find it very interesting because it really does. It's a hot button amongst Browns fans, and especially in social media worlds where, half the population loves it. Half the people hate it. I'm in the category of, I'm really happy for Baker. I know his time. I agree. And I don't know exactly what you guys are going to say here, but I agree that his time in Cleveland really was kind of running its course. How that came about and why it went down that road, we can talk about that. But I guess my question is, maybe you don't care. And I personally, I think it's cool that he got another win. Baker's kind of up and down, and he's had his moments. He's been with several other teams. Are you watching Baker in these playoffs? Are you rooting for him? And just your thoughts on that. I personally, I don't want him to win the Super Bowl because that would make me really sad as a Browns fan for a long time. But that would be Browns' luck that a Baker Mayfield would win a Super Bowl. But I'll root for him until that point. I also just throw this in there too, Steve. You had an interesting take to me earlier in the week about the Detroit Lions. I asked you because I made some post about congrats to the Lions and winning a playoff game, and your comment back was about, well, I don't know if I can root for anybody that's on the list that hasn't won their Super Bowl yet. So I wanted your take on that too, if anybody wants to comment about the Lions and about Baker Mayfield. Elliot, let's go with you first. I'm going to finish with you, Steve.
I have no conflict there. I'm a Baker Mayfield fan. I realize why Baker Mayfield messed up in Cleveland. He really did mess up. He divided the team, and it was really the Odell Beckham Jr. Affair. And Odell messed up also, but he's no longer with the team either, and he's not coming back. But I have no animosity to Baker Mayfield. I hope he does win the Super Bowl. I think it would be great. Just like when Bernie Kosar got his ring, when Ernest Biner got his ring, that didn't bother me one little tiny bit. Anybody but Baltimore, man, I just have no problem with that. I just don't want Baltimore to win. I'm going to root for anybody but Baltimore. That's my position.
Sam, take on Baker, the Lions. What do you think?
Well, Baker was the reason I got into the Browns. I liked him, and I thought he was cool, and so I kind of became a Browns fan. But I think now that he's been gone for a few years, I think now that he's kind of moved on to other teams, I haven't really cared about him as much. I've kind of become more invested in the Browns themselves and not.
That's impressive, Sam. I'm impressed with that.
and not into Baker Mayfield himself. And so, I mean, if he wins, that's cool. Yeah. But it's like, I've kind of moved on from him. He's still Baker Mayfield. I still have that little special, he's the reason I'm into football as much as I am kind of part. But like, I don't know. He's just not a Brown. If he was a Brown, I'd be rooting for him for forever. But I mean, I'll give him my support still, but I won't buy a jersey of his or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Steve, final thought on Baker and the Lions.
On the Lions, I'm just weird. I don't want any. I want the next team that's on the list who've never been to a Super Bowl or never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I want that team to be the Browns. All the other teams, wait in line. We're first.
Right.
We deserve it more than you do.
Yes.
More than the Houston Texans and even Detroit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We deserve it more. We've been waiting longer. As for Baker, I'm a little conflicted because I have a lot of my relatives are Tampa Bay fans, as you know, John.
Yes.
Back when Tampa and the Chiefs played, I was the only person to pick Tampa. My nephews are all big Tampa Bay fans, but I can't root for Baker. What irritates me about the Baker Mayfield thing is people actually saying that they'd rather have Baker Mayfield this year, next year, and last year than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. He's been cut by two teams.
Mm-hmm.
He's won the worst division in the NFL with a 9-8 record. And the last time I looked,
Yeah.
Cincinnati finished with the exact same record with a backup quarterback named Browning.
Yes.
Near the end of the season, they played Carolina twice.
And they played a really messed up Philly team that was mentally just screwed
we
up.
don't even know if the Philly coaching staff is going to survive this right now. Nick Sirianni may be fired by the time the games start this
By the
weekend.
time the show's over, we're gonna
he maybe can't. I find it different with Baker Mayfield and Bernie Kosar and Ernest Biner. I rooted for Bernie Kosar to get his ring with Dallas.
Sure.
And I rooted for Ernest Biner. That's different. Baker Mayfield ran himself out of town. Okay?
Yeah.
And he put himself above the team. He lied about his injuries and how much pain he was in. He changed the plays. And by the way, when he changed the plays, they did not work. I still can't get over that Green Bay game where he didn't practice, didn't do any film study, flew into Green Bay the day of the game and threw 4 interceptions.
He did. He flew in that day of the game.
Joe Woods' defense played their butts off in that game, and that was the game they could have won. But what does he do? He
Christmas Eve, right? I think
he could have told the training staff, "Look, this is really hurt. I need to take some weeks off." I would have been fine with Case Keenum.
Yeah,
and I think
it's just for Browns fans. I think the wound we were already hurting immensely after we lost Saturday. Browns fans, worldwide.
I know, I understand,
and we knew Monday. I mean, I knew Monday going into that game. It was on national TV, and I had a feeling, like many of you probably did, that Baker was going to show out. It was a home game, and Philly was.
I knew they were going to win. Has anybody been paying attention to the Eagles the last 6 weeks?
You're right.
They let Dallas get the division. Well, I mean, come on.
And I think that's where we'll just, I think Baker. For me personally, and for many fans personally, if you watched the game back in 2018 on TV, or you were like I was in the stadium when he helped win that first game for the Browns against the Jets.
Oh, yeah, I give him all his credit.
That was a moment that will go down in Browns history as one of the bigger moments in the history of the team. And
Hey, well, I'll put it to you this way in simple terms. I used to like and love my ex-wife. Now I can't stand her.
Right.
I'm not rooting for her in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. All right. Final.
And my final thoughts on Baker Mayfield.
Can't relate. What is he doing?
Sorry, I had to do my Mike Tomlin impression.
That's excellent. Guys, thank you for being here on the Fanatical Elves tonight. We will be bringing you more shows this weekend. The Oracle Speaks is up next. We've got Sam also. The Browns Breakdowns is out there right now on Apple and Spotify. So please tune in. Everybody have a great rest of your evening. Go Browns. Despite the loss, we will march forward as loyal Browns fans as we are united, and we will try to bring us
united in pain.
United in pain. Take care, everybody. Have a very good night.
Welcome to the club, Sam.
Toodaloo.
I'll get used to it.
Hey.
No, I won't.
Go Browns.
Yeah, Oracle. Yeah, Sam. Let's wish for a snowstorm here so I don't have to go to school tomorrow.